Welcome to the Menopause Unplugged Podcast with me, your host, Nikki Oliveira. On this podcast, we will hear from women who are navigating the challenging and transformative journey of perimenopause and menopause. These women have graciously agreed to share their stories and insights, offering a raw and honest glimpse into what it's like to go through this major life transition. From hot flushes to rediscovering themselves, our guests will provide a wealth of knowledge and inspiration for anyone who's going through or will go through menopause. So grab a cup of tea, settle in, and join us for a fascinating and enlightening discussion. Hello and welcome to the Menopause Unplugged podcast with me, your host, Nikki Oliveira. Today we have the lovely Laura with us in the studio. How are you doing, Laura? Okay?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to the studio.
Great. Thank you so much for joining. It's a pleasure to have you here. So, Laura, tell us a little bit about your menopausal journey.
So I'm relatively new to probably recognising that I'm perimenopausal. I only have started treatment in the last 6 months. But if I'm honest, if I think back, I probably went into early perimenopause in 2019 when I abruptly had a life-changing event which left me paralysed, requiring spinal surgery, and then subsequently having permanent nerve damage to my lower left side of my body, needing to use wheelchairs and mobility aids. So at that point, kind of life dramatically changed. I had severe pain. I was on lots of medication, and life was just very different. And I, adapted to my new lifestyle. COVID hit, and again, everybody was locked down, and it was a huge shock to people that they couldn't go out and they couldn't do anything, and life was very difficult. And on reflection, at that point, I just kind of laughed and went, welcome to my world. Kind of, I just went into lockdown, 18 months earlier. And it wasn't really until we started coming out of lockdown that my joint pains, the insomnia, the extreme anxiety, low mood, really kind of grew and got worse. And when I went to the doctors, they said, you've had a spinal cord injury, life-changing event, we've had COVID, you're depressed. Take some antidepressants, which, I'm a resilient person. I've been a nurse for 23 years, spent 10 years working in A&E. I consider myself to be resilient. I've had to be for the job that I've done. I'm a mother of 4, and when I was told that I would never walk again, I went, no, that's not going to happen. I had 2 choices. One was basically rot on the sofa, or 2 was take myself off to rehab and fight. And that's exactly what I did. I'm now a ambulatory wheelchair user. I predominantly use crutches, and only really need to use my wheelchair if I've had a particularly bad day, or if I'm going out for the full day, or if I'm going to work and I'm going to be out of the house for a couple of hours, then I would need to use my wheelchair. But around the house, I'm good to go with my mobility aids. So being told that I was depressed, it just didn't fit. Being given antidepressants, and being offered more morphine, again, it didn't fit with the presentation that I had. And it was around this time that I did start getting a few night sweats, and at that point I was like, oh, this is the trigger. I know, as a clinician, I've never been taught about menopause, but the stuff that I have kind of heard when we talk about menopause, it was night sweats, and having a dry vagina, and difficulties having sex, and that's it. That's all I ever really knew, and kind of joked about it. And then suddenly, I've got brain fog, and I'm thinking, am I have I got dementia? And or is the brain fog due to COVID? Is it due to the fact that I've got a chronic fatigue and chronic pain? All these things you can relate it to, because the thing is with menopause, the symptoms are so wide and vast that you can go and Dr. Google and you can decide that that's what you've got. And no one joins the dots at all. And in my clinical world, the work that I still work as a clinician. I'm quite a senior manager in NHS, doing work, and patients are coming into hospital being sectioned with a mental health problem, and no one's picking up that actually 6 weeks into these patients being inpatients in a hospital bed, that actually maybe it's their menopause, maybe their hormones aren't right. I've seen patients have electricity bolts into their head to re-kickstart their mental health and their psychosis, and actually that's not worked, because fundamentally they had an undiagnosed menopause issue that being given the right treatment of HRT lifted that depression and that psychosis. So this is happening every day, and as someone who's got that clinical head and that and going through menopause, I now am just like, why are we not speaking up about this? Why are we not doing more? So for me, my personal kind of penny dropping was on Instagram, good old social media. I mean, social media can be great for some things, can be bad for others. But in terms of menopause, it's the go-to place. There's some fantastic advocates out there, and it was speaking to Dr. Louise Newsom, who reached out to me when I did an Instagram post, and I've then since educated myself further. I went to my GP initially and fighted about the antidepressants, and said, I don't want more morphine, I don't want antidepressants, I want HRT. I was told, no, you're too young, you don't need that. So I went away, did the research again. I'm a prescriber. I've got a prescription pad. You don't know how close I was just to prescribing myself. You can't do it; it's unlawful. But it was. I was getting to that point. Was like, I understand medicine. I understand what I need. I'm now fighting the process. So I went back to the doctor, and they gave me a token HRT. And I knew it wasn't right, and it was only when I again had an informal conversation with Louise. She said, are you going to come along to my clinic and have a proper review, because I don't quite think you're on the right medication? And I learnt more in that hour's appointment with one of her doctors. It wasn't with Louise, but it was with one of her doctors. I learnt more in that hour, and now I'm like, oh my God, don't settle for second best. If your GP is fobbing you off, find the money. It's £250 and it's the best money I spent. It's crazy that we should have to go through that process. And actually, consequently, I got prescribed the correct drugs. HRT is not just one medication. And that's why it's called HRT. If it was just estrogen, it would be called estrogen treatment. And I think that's the bit that we're really missing on. And I probably said I really want to push out there that so many of my friends go, oh yeah, I'm on HRT, and I ask them what they're on, and they go, oh, I'm on estrogen. No, you're not on HRT. You're on one platform. And things like the testosterone. That myth that it's only to do with your sex drive.
Sure.
It's absolutely not. I've gained just over a stone since I've hit perimenopause, and I'm on the most strictest diet possible. Restricted to 1,000 calories a day. I'm measuring everything, even to the point where on my app it says you can have a tablespoon of this, or I'm measuring that tablespoon, because I'm not trusting
to chance.
Yeah, and I each week I'm just gaining a tiny bit. And people look at me and go, well, there's nothing of you, what are you worrying about? Well, actually, you may think there's nothing of me, but I've gained a stone in weight. Now, for anyone who's ever pushed themselves in a wheelchair will absolutely understand that weight in a wheelchair. every ounce you feel it. And when you're trying to push yourself around London a couple of times a week with work, trust me, you don't want to be carrying extra weight. So yeah, I have struggled. I am currently on testosterone, which is a huge battle with my GP because they won't accept any testosterone, even though my bloods indicate that the average woman should be 2 to 3, and I'm 0.23. So I'm not just a little bit out. I'm
No,
way off the mark.
absolutely.
So I'm currently paying for it privately, which is expensive. It's nearly £50 a month, and that's not sustainable. So I am bouncing back to my GP, asking for the testosterone. The bloods indicate it. I've got brain fog. I've got the insomnia is crazy, and the anxiety.
Mm,
The point that I don't want to leave the house, I don't want to go out, and huge anxiety, which again is not me.
yeah,
Since I've been on testosterone, I've been on about 6 weeks, and I'm starting to feel the difference, which is why I'm even more banging on the door with the GP. GP won't accept the referral from the private clinic, and has said I have to go and see NHS menopause specialist. So I am now taking up a space of somebody who can't afford to have a private appointment. I was very lucky. Louise gifted me the appointment. Um, so I didn't have to pay for it. I'm having to pay for the medication, but the appointment was free. But it's a lot of money, £250. The average person's, that's half their wage for that month. So my GP won't give me testosterone, and I have to now wait for an NHS clinic who's going to tell me exactly what I know, exactly what's going to be. And actually, I'm taking the testosterone. Kind of feel like I'm taking illegal drugs here.
mm,
Taking it, and it's starting to work. The second problem is it's a 31-week wait to be seen, and actually, I don't need to go to the clinic. I've been to a clinic.
yeah,
It's ridiculous. But if I was a male and I was going in to see my GP and was complaining of having a low sex drive, I'd be giving it straight away.
yeah,
It's crazy.
mm,
If I had bloods that came back that said I was diabetic and I needed insulin, they would be making me take it. They'd be banging on my door. Why are you not taking your insulin? It's the same thing. Insulin. Thyroxine, hormone replacement, testosterone, estrogen. It's all a hormone replacement that we need, and but we give out insulin, but we won't give out the rest.
yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
let's stick a plaster on it. So I spoke to 3 doctors, and again, oh well, you can have some antidepressants. And I said, how's the antidepressants going to fix the problem? When we know the bloods are telling you that my testosterone's low, I'm symptomatic.
Mm-hmm.
You want to give me um, an antidepressant, or it will make me feel better. No, it won't make me feel better because I know you'll just put a sticky plaster over a problem. And I just don't understand why we are prescribing antidepressants like they're sweeties.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely crazy. So yeah, sorry, I've just
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's all useful stuff, Laura, and it's such, thank you for providing such a background of yeah, your story so far. So, um, yeah, absolutely, I totally agree with you on so many of the points that you brought up there, about testosterone and the fact that HRT is made up of three elements. It's your estrogen, progesterone, and your testosterone levels. And yeah, it's not one size fits all solution, and a lot of the time it's trial and error in terms of dosage, and we need to review it regularly and let it, obviously, of course, let it settle from whatever dose your doctor gives you, um, and then after a period of around 3 months, go back and speak to your doctor, have a follow-up, be proactive and make that appointment if they haven't already made that for you or suggested that you make one. So no, 100%. So with of course, your disability, your physical disability, as well as being menopausal. Is there any other challenges that you've faced that we haven't already spoken about?
Yeah, I think probably, when you present with a physical disability, everyone just makes that assumption. Well, you're going to be tired because you've got chronic fatigue. You're going to be uncomfortable because you've got, pain. So, it's just a byproduct, that live with it, be grateful that you've got what you've got. But no, don't be grateful. Don't settle for second best. Um, you know, for anyone out there that's had children, we're often told when our babies are little, that mothers interested that something's not quite right, and it's
Yeah,
exactly the same with menopause. You don't settle for second best. And if you've got a little bit of hip pain, don't just assume that you know that's just a byproduct of having a long-term disability.
mm,
Just you getting older. The amount of people that I speak to go, well, I'm on lots of medication anyway. Don't really want to take any more medication. Or I've only got a bit of night sweats. It could be worse.
yeah,
Could be so much better.
yes,
And
exactly.
I think people think they should just put up with it, and things like again, I wasn't aware of this until I had my appointment at the Newton Clinic. So I've got uh, with my spinal cord injury, I've got problems with my bladder, so I've got a neurogenetic bladder, which makes me prone to UTIs, yeah,
Yeah,
and prone to having difficulties passing urine. And anyone who's got a spinal cord injury will go, yeah, of course you have. That's you'd expect that.
yeah,
What I didn't realise, being under a urologist, having quite invasive treatments with cameras being put inside my bladder, which is not pleasant.
mhm,
Testing, things with around passing urine and stuff. Quite invasive treatments, and at no point did anybody mention, well, actually, are you on an HRT? Because actually, we know menopause affects how you are able to void and go to the toilet. So nobody spoke to me about it. I'm seeing consultants in urology. No one's mentioned it. I have one
no,
conversation with Louise, and she's like, "You need to have a tweak of your medication." And actually, I was waking up in the night, needing to go to the toilet, and having repeated UTIs.
mhm,
On the medication, which is basically the I totally forgot this wrong. The estrogen that goes internally. Um, that's all stopped. I'm not waking up in the night because I need the toilet, which is great because actually with the insomnia, you then can't get back to sleep.
yeah,
But people think, oh, you only need to have the tablet internally if you've got a dry vagina, and people don't want to admit that, oh, a dry vagina. Um,
yeah,
oh no, it's that kind of British thing. Let's not talk about dry vaginas. Um, but it's so much more than that because it isn't a dry vagina. It's a dried uterus and bladder which shrinks
yeah,
because dry, and in the process of it shrinking, you are then susceptible to UTIs, to frequent toileting. Um,
mhm,
yeah, so and they're the things that people don't talk about and that we're not aware about. And when I've seen consultants, urologists, because I've had problems with passing urine, and this could all been resolved about 2 years ago. And I've had MRIs, numerous MRIs. I've had invasive treatments and procedures. And how much is the cost of that? That's
yeah,
taken out the dignity, the the recovery, because afterwards I always get a UTI, so I'm then off work for a couple of days. The medication. If you cost it up just having one procedure, when they pass a camera through your urethra into your bladder, that how much that costs. But actually, I lose a week after that because I end up getting a UTI and I'm
yeah,
unwell. I'm then off work. I work for the NHS. It all adds up. But actually, it said, well, let's have a look whether it could be perimenopause, because that's really simple. That's just a tablet that I take 3 times a week. Job done.
Oh, absolutely, Laura. I think there's so much that needs to happen internally within the NHS to start changing that. Just even if it was on some sort of checklist, diagnosis checklist, would
But it's
would
not. As a
it's not.
we follow algorithms, so we have someone will come in and they'll come in with whether it be a heart problem, whether it be
Mm,
a broken bone. You follow an algorithm and you treat that, and you don't look outside the box. Until we start working holistically across the forum of different specialities, we're not going to link it up.
no.
It's only really when you get to the bottom of that algorithm and things aren't right, there's someone who scratches their head and go, well, okay, let's refer you to another speciality. But if we had sort of through MDT reviews, would we have these problems? And I think not. In terms of disability, when you look at spinal cord injuries and stuff, and all the different consultants that you speak to, actually, if you had a multidisciplinary team that reviewed and worked together, you would have a better outcome. And
Mm,
it is absolutely the same in mental health.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. So, Laura, has your menopausal symptoms affected your personal relationships at all? With your partner, with your kids, or with your friends?
Oh, of course, yeah, absolutely. I'm incredibly lucky. I've got a very supportive husband who has stepped above and beyond his duties. Um, and is very supportive. But not everyone's that lucky. I appreciate just how lucky I am. Um, and in terms of friendships, yeah, absolutely. I'm sure I've drifted away from certain friends and navigated towards others. There are
Mm,
that's in all walks of life, things like that happen. Um, but when I'm feeling so anxious about going out and doing things, I may make excuses as to why I'm not going out, or maybe I go out and I'm not quite present in the room. And people can take that personally. And actually, if they're also going through the menopause and they're feeling a little bit, anxious and a little bit kind of self-reflective and not quite sure what they want to be doing, and comfortable in themselves, you're going to have a recipe for disaster, aren't you?
absolutely, yeah. And especially if no one's talking about it, no one's really saying what they're truly feeling. And I think with encouraging that though, with between friends and whoever it may be, just to say, I think it's my, I've got all these symptoms. I think it's perimenopause, or just being open and just having that conversation can make you feel so much better and make you feel so much less alone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was really interesting. I still see all my school friends from secondary school. So there's a small group of us, and we've got the WhatsApp group, and we catch up when we can, families, commitments, and all. And it was probably last year we caught up and we were sitting down, and one of us said, "Oh, God, brain fog. I think I've got dementia." Laughing about it,
Yeah.
and the penny dropped for all of us, because actually we can't all have dementia.
No.
All seven of us can't all be, suddenly, early onset of dementia. We were recommending the book. I don't know if you read it. Still Alice.
Yeah, heard of it, not read it myself.
Read it. It's very good. It's about a 50-year-old woman who's an academia, and she thinks that she's maybe perimenopause, but it turns out she's got dementia, early onset dementia. But yeah, it's very well written. But we were kind of like saying about what books to read and stuff, and this book came up, and then that's how we then started talking about dementia, and then or is it perimenopause, and so it is about supporting your peers and bits and pieces. Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. So what advice would you give then, Laura, to other women who are, you know, becoming more aware of menopause, perhaps even could be going through it or maybe are about to go through it?
And I probably sound like, people probably think, oh God, Laura's got a new favourite topic to talk about. But absolutely do not put up with any symptom. One symptom is one symptom too much. And actually, if you're on a HRT and you're still having symptoms, then you're not on HRT. If you've got mild symptoms, get them treated, because actually the long-term effects of not having treatment for it, cardiovascularly, dementia, Alzheimer's, we know there's enough scientific evidence out there that indicates if you don't have the correct treatment for menopause, that you will, in later life, will have repercussions of it. So even if you don't want to talk about it or tell people that you're on HRT, go and investigate it, have those conversations, and look up the specialists. Go on Instagram and follow some of the specialists and get some ideas of what other people are saying. Don't
Yeah,
just accept the information that you're given by your GP. We know that GPs are not given training on menopause, full stop. So it's hit and miss what support you get. The GPs are stretched. They're given poor care, not because they want to, but just because of resources. And
yeah,
menopause is way low down there on the agenda.
absolutely. Yeah, I think absolutely. Just don't get fobbed off,
No,
basically.
prioritize yourself. If that was your child that was having problems, would you just sit back and go, well, it's okay, it's only mild, or my GP said no? You wouldn't. You would absolutely, you would be the advocate to fight for them. So turn that inwards and fight for yourself as well. Self-care begins with you taking care of yourself and being their advocate, because actually if you don't look after yourself, no one else is going to. And if you're a caregiver, whether it be to elderly relatives or you've got a small family, you need to be in the best optimum place to be able to give.
100%, Laura. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. It's been such a pleasure to have you on, and I'm sure we'll speak again soon.
Lovely. Thank you, Nikki. Bye-bye.
Take care. Thank you for tuning in to Menopause Unplugged. I hope you found the conversation to be informative, enlightening, and empowering. Remember, menopause is a natural part of a woman's life journey, but it doesn't have to be a lonely one. Whether you're experiencing perimenopause or menopause, my menopause coaching program can provide reassurance and guidance. Please do reach out to me through my contact details on the show description. And until next time, take care.